Hi everyone, my name is Jez. Welcome back to a new video. Today I'm going to be doing my second book reading wrap-up video. I do these videos every quarter and I share with you all of the books that I've read and my thoughts and opinions and my star ratings on all of them. So without further ado, let's get on with the video. So starting from the month of April, I only read one book. Actually, no, that's not true. I read two books. The first book that I read was The Capture by Catherine Lasky. I listened to an audiobook read by Pamela Garelick, I believe. So I've been wanting to read this series ever since I learned about it. So if you've never seen the movie The Legend of the Guardians of Gahul, I think that's the title. If you've never seen that movie, I highly recommend it. That's one of my favorite movies. And I learned that that was actually a movie adaptation of this book series. And I personally don't know which books were included in the movie, but there are 16 books in this series, which was very surprising to me. I didn't think that this series would be that long. Yeah, I started with The Capture. Thankfully, I found an audiobook online. I'm not going to be sharing a link to this audiobook just because I feel like the website is a bit sketch, so just to be safe, I'm not going to be sharing the link for this audio, unfortunately, but if you want, you can just search for it. I'm not going to leave a link for this one. I read this one 4 stars. I did enjoy it, but there were just something about the book that I didn't enjoy as much as I would have liked. I don't know if it is because of the narrator. Like, no offense to her, I think she did an okay job, but the way that she voiced some of the characters were just very irritating. I didn't like it. Like, I really did not like how she voiced Gylfi, I think that's her name, which is unfortunate because I really like her character. So while I was reading this book, I just kept on referring back to the movie, and I remember thinking like, oh my goodness, I've already listened to this much of the audiobook and we're still in this part of the movie, which is in the very, very beginning. I did not expect for like so much stuff to happen or like so much info to be given to us, and there's also a lot of characters that were included in this book that were not in the movie, and a lot of different situations that were just sort of skipped in the movie, which I personally appreciate, but it does add on to the lore and like the world building and the characters and this academy, which I did not even know it was an academy in the movie. It was I don't know what I was thinking. Nevertheless, I still liked it. I don't think I will re-listen to this one just because, again, I did not really like the narration, and I also did not like the pacing of the book. I don't know, I guess because I've watched the movie, I know what happens, and the pacing in the movie is much more fast-paced. Like I was saying earlier, like I've already listened to this much of the book, and yet we're still in like this very early scene in the movie. So yeah, I just felt like it was a bit dragging, but then I can understand that we are getting more information about the world and we're getting to know more characters. So like, I guess in that sense, like, I don't know. I don't think I will re-listen to this audiobook, but I would love to read the physical book itself. Maybe I'll have a different opinion then. Oh, also, I forgot to mention, something that surprised me was Clud. So Clud is Soren, the main character's name is Soren. Clud is his older brother. And from the movie, we already know that the brother is not this, like, nice guy, nice brother. But in this book, he was so much more sinister, which I did not expect. Because in the movie, there was like a clip of him in the ending where he looks kind of scary and ominous looking, which didn't really translate in the beginning of the movie and in the entirety of the movie. You just know that he's not a good guy. You know he's not a good brother. But in this book, it's much worse than that. He's way more conniving and yeah, just more sinister of a character than I thought. So yeah, that really, really surprised me, and I actually kind of liked it. I like that he was portrayed much more of like a villain in the book. So anyway, I think I've rambled on too much about this book. Let's move on to the next book, which is Sphere by Michael Crichton. I listened to the unabridged version of this book. This one was read by Bob Askey. I will have the link to this one in the description if you'd like to listen to it. And I have already said some things about this book in a reading vlog, but to summarize, I just felt like I didn't really need to listen to this version because I already listened to the abridged version, which is much more condensed and much more concise compared to this one. And I honestly just felt like the main important things were already covered in the abridged version. I didn't really need to listen to this one, and I felt like I just wasted my time because this one, I forgot how long this audiobook was. I think this was around 12 hours, 11 hours, I would say, while the abridged version was around 2-3 hours long. I forgot what I rated this one, maybe 4 stars, I think. I don't know. Those were the 2 books that I read in April. Okay, so moving on to May, I only read 1 book, and that's just because I was in a reading slump. I think it was around like late April throughout the entirety of May. I was in this reading slump. So I read Nixia by Scott Rankin. Apparently it's pronounced as Rankin, Scott Rankin, instead of Rankin, which was how I pronounced it earlier in a reading vlog. So this is book 1 of the Nixia trilogy, and I rated this one 4.25 stars. I really liked it. This is a science fiction. I don't know if it's dystopian. I think it's just more science fiction. And I would say that this book is very similar to Ender's Game and like Hunger Games because there's like this sort of competition. I really enjoyed the sci-fi elements, which is surprising to me because I'm not really a big sci-fi reader, even though it feels like it would be right up my alley because of how similar it is to fantasy. But I don't know, for some reason, I don't know why science fiction just never really stuck with me as like a genre that I really enjoyed reading. But for some reason during this time I was really into reading sci-fi. So yeah, I really enjoyed the sci-fi elements. I thought that they were just really cool, and I loved the imagination of it all. Even though like it doesn't like exist, it makes sense in this world that there would be those kinds of technology around at that time. I personally would watch this if this gets adapted into a movie or a TV show. I would definitely watch this. This was very exciting to read, and I also really love the cast of characters because they're all so different from each other, which is very helpful because there's quite a lot of them, and it's helpful to be able to distinguish each character, each competitor, if you will. I will be purchasing book 2 in the future, so I'm really excited to read that one. Okay, moving on to June. This is the month where I've read the most books because I really tried my best to get out of my reading slump. The first one that I read was Jaws. I listened to an audiobook of this on YouTube. It was recommended to me in my YouTube home feed, so I decided to give it a listen. I rated this one 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed this. As I mentioned in the most recent vlog, I thought that this would be similar to my experience with listening to Jurassic Park, just because they seem very similar to me, like movie-wise, so I thought I was gonna enjoy it the same way, and I did. So yeah, this was just a fun listen. I've already watched Jaws like years and years ago, so I already knew the gist of the story, so for me it wasn't too hard to get into because I already knew what was going to happen, and it was just so fun listening to this. So I listened to the one read by Henry Goodman. This was produced by the BBC. So I listened to this one on YouTube. I'll have it linked in the description. If ever the one on YouTube gets like copyrighted or gets taken down, there's like the official one on the BBC website, which I will have linked in the description as well. So yeah, this was just so entertaining to listen to. I felt like I was listening to a movie the entire time. I was so engaged throughout the entirety of the book, and it was just such a nice time. It was so fun, and yeah, I had a good time listening to this. The only thing that I did not really like, or like at least I don't really understand, is there's like this cheating subplot with the wife and like this other guy. Like, it didn't really make sense to me. I felt like it was unnecessary. Like, it didn't really need to be included in the book unless there is something that I'm missing, because this is an abridged version. I don't really get the purpose of that subplot is in the book. I really don't get it. Anyway, moving on. The next book that I listened to was The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. I have recently learned that was actually how you pronounce Jekyll. I've always thought that it was pronounced as Jekyll, but it's pronounced as Jekyll, which I've learned from reading the comments of the video where I listened to this audiobook. Again, links are in the description if you'd like to listen to it. So the audiobook that I listened to was read by Ian Holm. That was just how he read the names, and I learned that that was the correct way. So it's Jekyll. And also for his name, I thought it was Robert Louis Stevenson. It's Robert Louis Stevenson. So this is a very short audiobook because this book is a novella, so it's shorter than a novel. I personally prefer listening to the Christopher Lee version that I listened to last year compared to this one, just because that one included some more like eerie, spooky sounds in the audiobook, especially in like the beginning or like during the breaks. They included this sort of spooky sounding thing. It just really added to the spookiness or like the atmosphere, ambiance of the book. So I really enjoyed that in the Christopher Lee version. But yeah, I still enjoyed listening to this. I have rated this one 4.5 stars. I think this is similar to the Christopher Lee version. I think I rated it the same way. It's just I don't know, there's something about this story that I really like. I really like this book for some reason. I don't know what it is. I appreciate that it is a novella, so it's on the shorter side. And even though it is shorter, I feel like there's so many things that happens in the book, and they're all very interesting. I don't know, there's just something about it that I really, really like. And I also really like the bit of science fiction in this book. I've mentioned this before in a previous video, but I always enjoy when books have like this bit of science fiction in it. I don't know what it is about it. Like sprinkles of science fiction in books there's just something about that I really like. The next book that I read was The Snow Spider by Jenny Nemo, and this is book 1 of the Snow Spider trilogy. I saw this book on Shopee. I decided to get it because this is by Jenny Nemo. I've read the Charlie Bone books and it's my favorite series, and I really liked her writing, so I thought to give this book a try. So I rated this one 4.25 stars. I really did enjoy it, and I think this was just what I needed during my reading slump period. I just really needed to read lighthearted books during this time, and this is like a great start to that. I just really enjoyed it. It was lighthearted. It's fantasy. I love fantasy. I also really love adventure books. This is not like very super adventurous, but there's still this sense of adventure and like wonder, and it's so magical, and I love that. And I also think that I just missed reading middle grade books. I feel like I really need to have some middle grade books in my TBR as like choices that I can read, because I just need it for like times like this. Also, I had to look up some names and like some words because this book is set in Wales and some of the names were in Welsh, so I decided to like search them up just to see what they meant, and I wanted to also figure out how to pronounce them, because how I pronounce things while reading may not be the correct way to pronounce them. Yeah, I thought that was really cool. I learned some words which I have forgotten now, but I know that, well, actually no, I might be butchering this, but there is a character in this book named Arianwen, and I think that means silver, if I'm not mistaken. And then the last book that I read was The Midnight Gang by David Walliams. I did not know that he was an author. I just know him from Britain's Got Talent as a judge there. I did not know that he wrote books and that he's been writing books since like the 2000s. So that was really cool to find out. So I actually saw this book on Shopee because I was looking for books to buy. And I initially thought that this was like a Roald Dahl book that I for some reason had missed or not learned about because of the illustration and the cover. I thought it was illustrated by Quentin Blake, but it's not. His books are illustrated by Tony Ross. The art style is just so similar to Quentin Blake. And speaking of illustrations, I love the illustrations in this book. As, you know, a kid growing up reading Roald Dahl books, it just felt very nostalgic seeing the illustrations because of how closely they resemble to Quentin Blake's style. I enjoyed this book. Again, very similar to Roald Dahl again, where it's like very silly, very whimsy, and I love it so much. I mentioned it in the recent vlog. Reading this book just made me feel like a kid again, reading books for the first time. And I think the reason for that is because of the different fonts. It reminded me a lot of the Hieronymo Stilton books. Those were actually the books that got me into reading. And what I mean by that is that I was already reading like picture books before, but the Hieronymo Stilton books in particular was what got me into reading more like novel books. That was like my transition into reading like novels, because the Hieronymo Stilton books they had a lot of illustrations, but they were also in color. They used these specific fonts for specific words, and they had like these different colors, and it just reminded me a lot of that. And yeah, I think it just felt so nostalgic, and that's why I enjoyed it very, very, very much. I rated this one 5 stars. Not only just because of the nostalgia factor, but I really did enjoy the book. It's just such a silly, fun read. I love this book. This is definitely one of my favorite reads this year, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. Hi everyone. So I finished editing last night, and I realized that I forgot to include the last book that I read in June. I completely forgot to write it in my notes, so I'm filming this clip right now. So sorry about the lighting. It is very gloomy today, so please bear with me. So the last book that I read in June was Beast by Peter Benchley. This is the same author that wrote Jaws. This book is basically the same thing as Jaws. It just has a different sea creature and different characters, different setting, but it's honestly pretty much the same thing. I rated this one 4.25 stars. I still did enjoy listening to this one. So this was recommended to me on my YouTube home feed right after listening to Jaws. I clicked on it just to see what it's about, and I liked what I heard during the first few minutes, so I decided to just listen to the entire thing. Again, like I said, it's basically just another Jaws, which I enjoyed. I will say that I liked this sea creature better as like a monster. I'm not gonna say what the monster is because I don't want to spoil it, but I mean, you can probably tell based on the cover, but I'm not gonna say anything. So yeah, I liked the sea creature better as a monster just because just reading about it just felt more scary and eerie in comparison to just a shark. But yeah, that's just me. And also an interesting thing about this book is that you do get a little bit of the creature's perspective, which I thought was interesting. Just a little bit. It's not too much. Like, the creature has no like personality or anything like that, but you do get like glimpses of like their consciousness or something. I don't know how to describe it, but yeah, I enjoyed this one. It was very similar to my experience with listening to Jaws, and again, the audiobook will be linked down below if you'd like to listen to it. This is an abridged version, I believe, because this audiobook is around 3 hours long, I think. So yeah, if you just want a quick listen, you want to listen to something that's similar to Jaws, then this book is the one. So yeah. Okay, so that is going to be it for this video. I don't know how long I've been yapping here, but I will end this here. Thank you so much for watching. Again, all of the links to the audiobooks are down below in the description if you'd like to listen to them. And let me know what books that you've read during this quarter that you have liked. I'm interested to know what books you're reading and what books you're liking, so please leave them in the comments down below, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!